fucking shit, Supernova. Here we are. 3 postponements later. It had to happen sometime. Tough shit. We're here. You're there. Deal with it. HCF. We're up in this place. Lift up those beers, throw them back at your face. We dirty, dirty, debaucherous drunks. Down for the skins, dreads and the punks. Yes, we're up in this place. Make with a shot and a cold one to chase. Get on that dance floor, do what you do. This is going out to the Supernova crew, huh? So what the fuck is up? We're back in this place. Lift up those beers, throw them back at your face. Not here for fashion, not here for trend. We don't really care who the fuck we offend. Yes, we're up in this place. Show me some fishnet, show me some lace. Get on that dance floor, start rocking some well. This is going out to the real rude girls. Jenny Whistle's gonna take you away.
And we're back. Coming in hot, the New York Hardcore Chronicles live after the big Dave Lombardo show that we did. Crazy. Crazy. That show's huge. Who knew? Well, kind of knew. But yeah, wow. Once in a while, you know, one gets, it's an upper deck home run. I think the Dave Lombardo show we did last, which was about 10 days ago, is like the 8th most viewed show we've ever done. It's a lot. And a lot of that has to do with it getting picked up by a lot of media outlets and you know, thank you. He was a great guest and it was a great show. And we are looking forward to another great show today. Is that right, Jed? What's up, Jed? Shouting out Jed watching from the Philippines in Southeast Asia. There you go. Jed left-hander watching from the Philippines in Southeast Asia. Come on now. Good. Welcome to the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. When are you getting RTL on the show? Dude is going nuts out there. Yeah, that's what I hear. You know, my take on the I'll tell you what. I'll give you my take on the Rick to Life thing, on the John Joseph rabies thing, on the Mark Pinetti, you know, drama. You know what my take on it is? I got nothing to say about it, and I don't give a shit. Nothing. That stuff is just, to me, it's just noise. Internet, social media, noise. And I don't want to mention it. I don't like, just so you understand that I don't want to mention it or talk about it because it gives credence to the whole thing. And personally, I want nothing to do with that stuff. That's not what I'm here for, you know? Let them kill each other off on social media as far as I'm concerned. We're here to talk about the tie that binds us together, music. You know, that stuff, man, that's just jive. That stuff is all just jive. That said, we have a special guest with us Yeah, bottom feeder crap for sure. For sure. I like a drop, I'd like a drama-free life too, Grown men with beefs. Yeah. And I hear my name coming up in the conversation and like I don't even address it. Like what's that meme that goes around with who's that? Is that Drake? That whole thing? So yeah, I'm not involved in that. Hey, special guest. Let's get to it. Coming at us from the Sunshine State of Florida. Hey, you know what we're going to do now? Every Wednesday show, we're going to have a surprise special guest at the beginning. So today's special guest, our good friend, you know him, you love him, from Butterbrain, Mr. formerly White Trash, Mr. Aaron Collins. Hey, man.
No drama, man. No, all peace, man. No stress.
Rastafari.
Leave that shit behind, man.
Selassie, you know what I mean?
Yes. Too much sunshine and pool for that, man.
Listen, I'm up here in New York slugging it out, bro.
Exactly. It's a rare break for me. I got Mom Dukes over here.
Hey, Ma.
Hello.
Say hello to everybody around the world.
Give away. There's my first time on a podcast with my mom.
There you go. Hey, let's get cracking. We special guest a couple of minutes. First and foremost, talk about what you're doing down in Florida.
So basically, we have a 4-day mini run. Starts tomorrow in Arcadia, Florida. Then we're in South Beach in Miami on Friday the 7th. Lake Worth, where I'm at now, on the 8th, and Orlando the 9th, and then we jump on a flight back home, so our sax player could get to jury duty.
Where's Sally Mae that she's chiming in? Isn't she supposed to be down there with you guys?
She's supposed to be jumping on a flight. They're flying out tonight. And I hear the weather's kind of stormy up there, so I know the flight's got delayed already. So we're a little edgy. We're on edge. I'm waiting for my crew to come out and join me in the pool over here.
Damn, Sally, I hope you make it down there. So is that tomorrow? Oh, geez.
Yes.
The first show's tomorrow in Arcadia at the Herd Opera House. Then Miami Beach. Then Lake Worth. And then Orlando. It's like, wow.
Yeah, we've been doing this for like this is our third year coming out here. We partner up with the band Fuacata from Miami, and we kind of trade off with them. They'll come up to New York in the summer, and we do the same thing for them. Let them use our gear and do like a 2 or 3 day run with them. And
sure.
It's been great. It's been building out here. This year's kind of got a nice build. We got a bunch of great local bands. The Big Scandals on one of the shows, Body Blow from Miami, Bomb the Algorithms with us, and Billy Doom, which is another big band out here. So yeah, and of course, Except You, their connection with Preacher and Rebelmatic, a great band from Coral Springs. So it's kind of the same thing we do up there with our scene, man. Like what you've been doing up there, we just kind of come out here. We've been building with some bands out here. The more we're doing it, the more leverage it's getting. So I'm having a blast.
And is this the new single you dropped, or this isn't the full length? This is tell us about the single and the studio adventure with Angelo.
Absolutely. The single's called Halfway to Jupiter. We were actually going to drop it when we got back from this trip, but since you asked us on the show, we figured we had it up on like streaming anyway. So today's the official drop of Halfway to Jupiter. And we got a video that Sally Mae directed coming out next Friday. It's going to premiere on Blank TV.
Cool.
So we got that working for our plan was to drop it all next Friday, but we got the single out. So here it is. Yeah, it's on all streaming platforms. It's a little more ska oriented than the other two we dropped. And yeah, man, I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, good stuff. And happy birthday, Sally Mae. Was that yesterday or today?
Yesterday.
Okay. Happy birthday, Sally. And I sure as hell hope that you guys can get a plane out of there and make it down to do the Butterbrain shows.
We need you in the pool, Sally.
Hey, want to shout out Walter Monster Ryan. What's happening, Walter? I hope you're well. And thank you for your help at the A7 the other night, the other day, So that said, and you know what I want to mention also, as far as Butterbrain goes, you guys are playing Tompkins Square Park Saturday, May 24th. The New York Hardcore Chronicles Back to the New York Hardcore Roots Music Series presents Non-Residents, Butterbrain, Fire is Murder, End of Hope, and Sonic Bomb. So that's happening on Saturday, May 24th, the Park Show in our beloved Tompkins Square Park, right?
We are stoked for that one. Yep, we're planning to use that as our album drop because we got a vinyl coming out and the full album. We've been piecing out singles. This is the third single to drop from the album, and we're stoked to share the whole thing, man. Like I just got the vinyl test presses back the day before we went out, so I was scrambling to give them a listen, and it sounded great on vinyl. It's like a real record. I really try to take that into consideration when making an album these days. I know it's a little bit of a lost art, but I try to try to have it pieced together as kind of like a story, like put the songs together in the proper way. And we got a little poetry from me and Angelo dropping on it, so it's got a vibe. It's as the mixer shared, we did it like 5 days in my house, brought it to the guy to mix, and he's like, it's got a vibe that it feels like it was like kind of rushed and chaotic and crazy, but it's got a vibe, man. He's like, that's what albums are about, and I kind of feel the same way too. It was totally chaotic and crazy. We had 5 days to get like 10 songs done with Angelo. We went back in and recorded a surprise cover track, which a lot of you guys that see us at A7 and the Hardcore Chronicles shows probably know what it is. So after recording the album, we felt like we were missing one piece, and why didn't we record that? So we went back into the studio for one day and added it to the album. So cool. Yeah, man, we're stoked. It's got a vibe. It's really got a vibe to it.
Listen, I respect your hustle. I consider you a family friend. We go back a long time. My brother, my dad, and you're a family friend. And
you know my mom.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's fantastic. Just want to remind everybody, if you are down in the Florida area, hopefully Butterbrain is playing starting tomorrow. Want to thank you for coming on, bro, and good luck with it. And anybody you want to shout out? Anybody you want to thank?
Well, I want to thank Sally for working her butt off on the music videos and the flyer. She actually did that flyer. She does it like almost all of our show flyers. She's like my right-hand woman in the group. Most of you guys know that. And I want to thank Greg and Manny for filling in. There's a little connection to the show today. Greg was a former Hub City Stompers drummer. He's joining us on this trip for the first time. So we got a few new members, and Sophia from Fwacata. She's a killer player, killer booker. She really helped me put this whole thing together. And shout out to Sophia from Fwacata, man. She's going to be playing with us as well on trumpet, and she also plays in the Big Scandal, who's joining us. So one night she's on like triple duty. She's
cool.
A warrior. She's like one of us from out there. You would love her. All
right, I will talk to you soon, brother. Have safe travels, and we'll see you back in La Ciudad de Nueva York.
All right, mucho gusto.
Take care. All right, there you have it. Hey, every Wednesday we're gonna have like a special surprise kind of pop in like that. Steven Messina will be doing Sundays, but Wednesdays you can count from here on in on a surprise special guest. Yeah, I know. I caught that also. The woman in the bikini. That's great. This is it. You've tuned in. We're getting down. Hello, everyone from around the world. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Once again, We are sponsored by the Texas Silver Rush, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, Mad Vintage, and 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Don't care what they may say, we got that attitude. Get in touch with them, ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. That said, let's clear the deck. What the heck? Let's bring our guest on. Let's make sure nobody's killing each other in the chat room. Let's make sure Rick to Life hasn't made his way in there and is spewing his message of hatred. That said, here we go. Today's guest is a singer-songwriter, Halen, from the Garden State of New Jersey. For over 30 years, he's been known for his work within the ska genre with the bands Inspector 7, Steel Toe Solution, and of course, the Hub City Stompers. Please welcome, coming at us from Bordentown, New Jersey, Mr. Travis Nelson, a.k.a. Reverend Sinister. Hey, man.
What's happening?
How are you?
I'm good. Wondering why Aaron, what did he wait? He waited until we left Florida to go down there. We were just there about a week and a half ago.
Is that right? What were you doing there? Playing shows?
Yeah. We did a little three show run ourselves. Where we do Melbourne, Miami Beach, also with Wakata, who they're doing their run with, and then up in Tampa. So I can vouch for the Wakata people. I was saying it wrong for most of the time before. I've said, and then during the show in Miami, I intentionally called them the Fuwakatas.
There you go. Is Florida a place? I know you've been in the game a minute. Is Florida like a circuit that you've returned to from time to time? Is there a little bit of a circuit down there doing Florida? Yeah.
We always like playing Florida. Usually about 3 shows will suffice. Do the Central on the East Coast, Central on the West Coast, and South in the middle. Usually the way I do it. Then you can fly in and out of Orlando. It makes life a lot easier travel wise, and you're just covering all the areas. We get yelled at occasionally for not going up farther north. It's been a while since we've been to Jacksonville and Tallahassee and all that.
Tallahassee, yeah, it's like another. Tallahassee's like another state, kind of. Like from it feels everything over on that side is it almost should be a little bit of a different state that the Florida Panhandle.
Yeah, it's a different universe there for sure.
Yeah. So that said, let's chop it up a little bit. Let's bounce the ball back and forth and let's have some fun. How did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
My father, my recently departed father, actually, I know, I'm sure.
And my condolences. I saw that your dad passed away recently, so
thank you.
My condolences. That it must be very tough.
Yeah, he just passed away on February 7th, and so I was pretty vocal about it on social media and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm sure you know. But yeah, he himself was a musician. Like I probably mentioned in a post or two, from the get. Watching him come into my preschool class and whip out his guitar and rock some Pete Seeger,
that's awesome.
And watch all the kids and I, from the get, that definitely helped develop my love for music. And then in our old yellow 70s van and our VW, whatever was on the radio, they weren't putting on little We Sing Silly Songs or Romper Room or anything like that. They were putting on it was classic rock playing out of there. And that's the music I was introduced to as a child. And I don't know how it made that connection with me, if it was emotions I was going through at the time or what, but I always loved music from the get-go. And it was usually like I said, I guess what people would consider adult music that I listened to as a kid.
And this was growing up in Central Jersey?
No. So I was actually born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And so, people occasionally see me in Steelers gear. And, that up until I was 7 years old, I lived in in Pittsburgh, PA, and that was during the whole Steel Curtain era in the '70s. So
Sure.
that doesn't leave you. I don't have much.
Franco Harris, Mean Joe Green, Rocky Blyer, Terry Bradshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really leave you as a kid. I mean, I'm not much into sports. I'm not a big sports follower, as much as some other people I know. But the Steelers is like my main connection to sports, and that's why.
Sure.
But anyway, yes, I was up until I think we moved in '77. So I was 6 years old when we moved to.
Is this shot here? Is this from Jersey?
That is Pittsburgh. That is the Falk School, my kindergarten class in Pittsburgh. And I have sweater up.
I have to say, like, looking at this picture, this is an incredibly ethnically diverse class of kids, and I was looking at it and I was thinking, like, I went to public school, here in New York, and it just reminded me of like going to public school, how really diverse is that the feeling you had kind of growing up as a young person?
So in Pittsburgh, the older I got, the less ethnically diverse my schools got. Like when I went to Falk in Pittsburgh here, you see it was pretty mixed and black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Jewish, everything.
It's incredible, man. It's really incredible.
In fact, I lived in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, which was pretty much all Jewish except for us.
Yeah, right.
And mind you, I was adopted, so I was adopted. So we had 2 white parents, 3 black kids on an all Jewish street. So that made for an interesting growing up. And
so I did not know that. So you were adopted by 2 white parents.
Yeah.
Jewish?
No, they were not.
No, they were not Jewish. But you grew up with two white parents.
Yeah, my dad was decidedly not Jewish. He was in theological seminary at the time. So
right.
Presbyterian.
Wow.
My mom's was Irish and was a lawyer. So but we grew up initially on Raleigh Street in Squirrel Hill. The entire block was Jewish, but for us. And then he moved to Jersey. Moved to Westfield, New Jersey in 1977, I believe it was.
You mentioned your dad coming into class and stuff, and I could relate to that. My dad used to come into my class when I was in first, second, third grade, and show films and talk about making films and stuff, and that was really big in my world as a young person, to have my dad come in and talk to the class and show some of his films, and it really had a deep effect on me as a person growing up and in communicating with people.
Yeah, I feel like that's what set the spark off, and then I was all into music and actually wanted to know what band is this I hear on the radio, and what is this and what is that. And I mean, by I started latching on to certain bands. I mean, around the time I moved to Westfield, New Jersey, when I was in second grade, I was a big Kiss fan, and yeah, there you go. I was Ace Frehley for Halloween 1978, right there, as homage. It's my ghetto put together Ace Frehley outfit.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome.
And then by 4th grade, I was into Rolling Stones. I believe that's my first concert memory was the Tattoo U tour, and I saw it in Philly in what used to be JFK Stadium back when it was still a thing. And
I was at that show.
Oh yeah, I was 10 years old. So.
I think that was the first show of the tour of the 1981 tour. I think that Philly show was the first show. But yeah, I was there. Yep.
Oh wow, that set it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was
so.
There.
So was the music on the radio, and what music was sort of like the first music that you felt was, this is mine, this is my music, not my parents, but mine?
I mean, I really, my parents weren't Kiss fans for sure. So, at age 7 and 8, I didn't know if I was able to, have that kind of identity, but I remember being a big fan of that. Rolling Stones, 89, 80, 81, I really got into their music, the Police, things like that. And some of that, now I also had an older brother who was a large musical influence as well. So a lot of the times a lot of his taste would trickle to me as well. You know, 80s, you know, when MTV first came on, you know, first the thing in the music, it actually played music and good music, you know.
Yeah. Sure.
A lot of, you know, ska and punk and new wave stuff, you know, and alternative. I started latching onto that a lot. Um, and then I'd say, really, as far as getting into underground music, which is what I really latched onto, also via my brother. I mean, hip hop and hardcore and punk and ska, that all kind of came at me at the same time, via my older brother and the tapes that I would hear blaring out of his boombox in his room, and then I'd go and sneak and see what was what. And, Run DMC and Husker Du and, you know, English
Sure.
Beat, you know,
Yeah.
Replacements and, you know, all kinds of things, Black Flag. And,
What was the first like live heavy and hard show that you saw?
so I consider myself a late bloomer as far as live shows goes. I mean, I started getting really into the music. Like, you know, like I said, I grew up as a black kid in increasingly whiter and whiter neighborhoods. Like you saw, you know, like I said, I was in the Squirrel Hill was all Jewish, but like when I went to school, it was a big mix. And then we moved to Westfield, and they were still doing busing at that time, so that even that was kind of mixed, but not quite as mixed as Pittsburgh. And then we moved to Hopewell or Pennington, New Jersey, in Hopewell Township, and that was I've never been anywhere whiter, and so that was an adjustment. And you know, it's you're you're a black kid in the 70s and 80s. You're used to racism and stuff, and you know, getting called this or that and getting excluded this or that, or the subtle stuff where it's like, you know, that, you know, they pretend to accept you, but you know, there's underhand suggestions and stuff, and even just the everyday words that are spoken. And I remember trying to actually fit in maybe, you know, 6th, 7th grade. Everything was very tribal back then. You know, you had preppies and burnouts and
Sure.
this and that and all these, you know, tribes, you know, punks and goths and, you know, all the different stuff. And I don't remember really fitting in anywhere per se. And I remember like briefly trying to kind of fit in with the popular white kids for a very brief time before I realized, like, to myself, what the hell am I doing? And
well, that never works.
Yeah, exactly. and I just, you know, I was always just myself. I was always a weird kid, you know, and now I'm a weird adult. But so I stopped. I remember I stopped trying to fit in about the time I discovered like punk rock and underground music and stuff. And maybe that was part of the influence, and maybe that was part of my appeal to it and everything. But I started really getting into the music around 1983 was when I really started listening to it. But I didn't really attend my first show until 1987, I'd say. Yeah, 1987. Fishbone.
And was that Fishbone at City Gardens?
Fishbone at City Gardens. And then for a time, remembering, I was like, oh, yeah, it was like Fishbone and Circle Jerks at City Gardens. But no, that's not right. I went to 2 shows in a row. My first show was Fishbone. The very next day at City Gardens, I was like, you know, in love. I went right back. Circle Jerks was the next day in 1987. And then that was that. That's where I lived.
I'm pulling up pulling up an old like City Gardens ad, because I think City Gardens is a place that was so important and so pivotal to a lot of the kids out in Jersey. Could you give us some perspective on like what, for those around the world, what City Gardens kind of was like back then?
It just, well, right there, I always tell people, or particularly younger people, that if I was to pull up a City Gardens flyer, any given City Gardens, you know, they call them punk cards that would come out in these flyers they would put out weekly, you wouldn't believe the lineups. You'd read it, you'd be like, that's made up. Like, no, everyone.
I know, this is incredible, you know?
Yeah, that's just the way it was. And so my parents divorced in 1980, and my dad moved to Trenton. So during the week, I'd go to school, you know, in Hopewell, to stick with the good school system, you know. And then on the weekends, I was in Trenton with my dad. So once I started going to shows, you know, I was technically in walking distance to City Gardens, but it's Calhoun Street, and it's not a walk you want to do, especially dressed up like a punk or a skin, or, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, sometimes when I didn't have cab fare, I'd be running home or to the show. But in any case, it's just an institution that I don't know why it's so like people say, oh, you should bring City Gardens back, and it wouldn't be the same. Back then,
No.
the music was underground. It was just this special place, and it wasn't just New Jersey. People would come from all over. I mean, I met a lot of my New York friends and Philly and Delaware friends at City Gardens. You know,
I mean, look how bananas this is. You know, I would be down to go to any single one of these shows. Social Distortion, Rollins Band, Testament, Sanctuary Violence, Agent Orange, Dag Nasty, Iggy Pop, Jimmy Cliff, Circle Jerk 7 all DOA government issue, Ramones, Dickies, you know?
and then even afterwards, keep look, Agnostic Front, DRI,
The Toasters, the Toasters and the Citizens.
Yeah, like it never stopped.
Oh, coming in August and September, Big Audio, Dynamite, Smithereens, Danzig, King Diamond, Mentors.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah, I'd see, Black Uhuru one weekend and then the Mentors the next. And it was just, it was insane. Then KRS One the next. And it's everything underground. Like, and I embraced all underground music. It's just, it was my home away from home, and then, I would go to shows outside, but Trenton, obviously, it's, like once, New Brunswick, once I got into that scene, and obviously New York. I mean, my older brother wound up living in New York City, wound up going to NYU. So I was up there a lot and going to shows there.
Yeah.
Special, yeah.
I read that Black Flag Damaged really had a big influence on you. And that had a huge influence on me because I remember when it came out. But I read that, Black Flag Damage was a big, really, really resonated with you. And I'm assuming that's sort of around this time.
No, this was later.
This is a little later?
Yeah, this is later. This Black Flag Damage was when I was younger. And again, one of my brother's tapes. And when I put it in, and that was, I feel like that's when I really discovered true, like hardcore, like, and I just started going all in and going out to Princeton Record Exchange and buying all these hardcore records. But Black Flag, it was like, maybe it was just because of like I said, that tumultuous, that anger I had inside and the stuff I was going through and trying to figure myself out socially and everything. But it tapped into that anger that I was feeling as a kid. And I was like, this is amazing. This speaks to me. And that's really when I fell in love with hardcore, with Black Flag Damage, I have to say.
Gotcha.
And then I went out and I forget what vinyl I bought with what little money I had. And I would put like hardcore tapes on my Christmas list. And my parents didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But, but every once in a while they'd find something. Like I was at my, conservative grandparents' home. And I remember, Christmas, I don't remember what it was, 85 or something like that. And I remember my dad kind of slipping me the Dead Kennedy's Plastic Surgery Disasters tape, quiet. He's like, just don't show your grandparents.
Sounds like you had some great parents, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
They dealt with my weirdness as best they could.
Hey, I hear you. At what point were you exposed to, and I'm assuming embrace kind of skinhead culture? Could you hip us to that?
So I started going to shows in city. I mean, I was aware of the skinhead subculture, having listened to the music since 1983 and stuff, and going to shows. I started meeting all different kinds of punks and skins. And I had, just like when I was younger, I didn't necessarily want to be labeled anything. I didn't want to be labeled a punk or a skin, I wish I should have included pics of the Frohawk I used to sport.
The Frohawk.
Yeah, in high school,
nice.
I rocked the Frohawk.
That's awesome.
There's definitely pictures I could dig up. But I rocked that for a while. And people be like, oh, you're a punk. But I don't know. I just didn't want a label per se. But more and more, the more I went to hardcore shows and more I hung out at City Gardens and just the more skinheads I fell in with. And I had a lot of the same, mentality with, like I said, I was angry, there was the violence involved. There was a good amount of, white power clowns who would be going to City Gardens around that time, especially 87, 88. I remember, I think it was 89 when people really started kind of fighting back against them, and it was like almost like a weekly battle between.
Well, I know there was a hotbed of activity there between City Gardens and Airport Music Hall in Allentown, and sort of that whole sort of area there for a couple years was a hotbed of activity. you know.
Yeah, Northeast PA was pretty much, you know, a great white bastion back then, and then, you know, we had our friends down by the Pine Barrens, Atlantic City. So yeah, there was a lot of conflict for a while, and just you know, more and more. I eventually, it wasn't just a style thing, like, oh, I'm going to get this fro hog off my head. I mean, I remember when I first cut it off, I left a little bit up front because I didn't want to be labeled a skinhead, you know. But even though all my friends were skinheads, even though I dressed like a skinhead, even though all I did was listen to skinhead music, skinhead things, and then finally I was like, you know, let's be honest here, you know. And even my friends, all my skinhead friends were like, what are you doing, man? So yeah, that's why I fell into it, like 89, 90, I guess you could say, is when I pretty much, you know, went that route. And that's around, where those pictures you're looking at, those pictures. There's that one, and then the other one where I'm sitting on that pillar, I was actually over in France, in Lyon, France.
And what were the early sort of, and you know, I hate to use it like skinhead bands. What were like the early skinhead, oi, ska? What were the early bands that really resonated with you?
I embraced hardcore more than anything, honestly. Oi and ska were secondary to me. Hardcore was my life. But you know, it's still the skinhead subculture is the skinhead subculture. So you embrace, you know, all the music, but all the classics. I mean, you know, I was the Blitz and Last Resort and Poppy Rejects, and you know, and I mean, name any Two Tones, because Two Tone was I like traditional stuff, you know, Paragons and Scatolites, but Two Tone was my main love when it came to the ska sound. But hardcore really was always my primary music, and it was always you know, the fact that I wound up in a ska band it's kind of like a running joke. Randy, who used to book City Gardens, he was the one that would always make the joke, like, oh, you and my friend Alex, some people refer to old school acts, but Alec Franklin, you guys should form a ska band. And I don't know if he was just joking around or if he was trying to make some sort of joke with, like, oh, you know, black dude and an Asian dude starting a ska band or what. But I always laughed it off, you know. And then the fact that, you know, maybe, I don't know, 5 years later after he first suggested it, I wound up, you know, in the ska band a little bigger. But yeah, musically, all the classic bands I latched onto, and then a lot of the American ones too. You know, Anti-Heroes and Templars.
I know we're sort of easing our way into you getting into Inspector 7, but this is a screenshot from the Rancid Time Bomb video. How did you end up in that?
A bunch of people did. It wasn't just me.
Was that shot at City Gardens?
No, that was shot in the Lower East Side. That was shot on Rivington, I believe, if I remember correctly, at this abandoned building that's probably like a $2 million condo now or something. But no, I can't remember where the ad went out or how the word got out. It had to be word of mouth back then.
Sure.
So I think that was 94, and I was in Inspector 7 by then. And everyone just got word and said, hey, if you show up, they'll pay you this amount of money to be in this Rancid video. And a whole bunch of us showed up. I mean, Sid was in it. Sid's in the video. He's probably two people over from me in this particular shot, actually.
Hey, Sid, I know you're out there. We'll bring you on at the break, and you'll let us know about. I did not know that Sid was a big star in the Time Bomb video.
Yeah, Sid, Scott Stapes, Joey Buddha, there's just a whole bunch of people, and you know, the star Toby, of course. So you know,
right on. So walk us through sort of how you ended up in Inspector 7 and the early days. You know, how did that come to be for you, and take us through that timeline a bit.
So when my dad retired from, I knew my dad was wanting to retire from the ministry in a matter of years, and I was.
Excuse me, your dad was a minister?
Oh yeah, sorry, did I not?
You didn't mention that.
I mentioned he was in theological seminary earlier, and he wound up becoming a Presbyterian minister. So that's the reason we moved out to Jersey. Down in Trenton, he was the minister of the First Presbyterian Church of Trenton.
Ah,
So that's where he lived in Trenton, and that's
the
why-
plot thickens.
There you go. So
Yeah.
now he was a cool minister. He never forced religion on any of us. He gave us all the choice. To be, if you want to be baptized in the Presbyterian Church or not. I obviously never had any particular affinity for religion, so I said no. My brother and sister each said yes, and but yeah, thankfully he wasn't like that. But I started, just like I said, I met New Brunswick friends at City Gardens and started hanging out in New Brunswick, which was a real hub of New Jersey music. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, or mid to
Wow,
late 80s.
I did not know. I did not really know that. I know City Gardens was sort of like ground zero, but I didn't know that New Brunswick was such a hub of musical activity in those years.
Oh, absolutely. It was. City Gardens is where all the other scenes would come, maybe for like big shows like that. But New Brunswick definitely had its own scene. I mean, there's a jillion bands that came out of Baltic Souls, Lifetime, etc. And it definitely, I mean, you had the Court Tavern, the Roxy, the Melody Bar. You had all these, clubs that would embrace this underground music. So I had a lot of friends up there, and I lived there I was living between Trenton, New Brunswick, and occasionally I'd be running off to France for a few months and then coming back. So between I'd say maybe 1990 and 1993. And that's when I was really embracing the New Brunswick scene, and I had some friends up there. And in 1992, they formed a band called Agent 86. And at the time, there was only one New Jersey ska band. They had started out as Panic, and then they became Bigger Thomas. And they were really the only running ska band in Jersey. So when I heard that actual friends of mine, who I just knew from the scene, were forming a ska band, I was thrilled. I was like, yeah, I was going to be the number one supporter. And I was. I would go out there, I'd be the drunken buffoon dancing after shows,
That guy.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they went through a couple of name changes. I think in 93, they changed the Crash Bars. And towards the end of 93, they started calling themselves Inspector 7. And the main frontman at the time I always knew him as Joe Mancini, but he had evolved into Giuseppe Mancini. There was a kind of like a side hype man. His name was Jeff Silverman. And I think he left the band at that point, or had, and they said, oh, we need another front man or another hype man. And that's when they approached me, like, oh, you're always out there dancing around like a drunken goofball. You do it on stage and it'd be, a good presence and this and that. And at first I was like, no, because I'd never been in a band before or done anything like that.
Sure.
And I didn't want to, it sounded like they wanted me to be like Flavor Flav or something up there, and I was
like, you didn't necessarily want to be the hype guy.
Yeah. If I was going to go to practices and put in all that time and all that, I wasn't going to, So, but eventually they're like, sit in on a practice. So I did. I sat in on a practice up in the attic. They moved it. There's a house called the Gingerbread House, which is infamous house, and 106 Welton Street, New Brunswick, and a lot of bands have lived there and passed through there. And Agent 86 used to practice in the basement where I would sit in on the practices, and then we moved the practices up to the attic. I sat in on, and I don't know, it felt right. They said I could write my own songs, do my own thing, this and that, and so I essentially became the co-front man and joined. And I think I did my first show with them in February of '94. I believe it was at the Melody Bar in New Brunswick.
Is this a early shot of that sort of that crew?
That is my bedroom. My emptied out bedroom in the Gingerbread House at 106 Welton Street. That was a shot. That was one of many shots that were taken for Inspector 7's first album, The Infamous, where we all crowded into that room and took a bunch of shots. I believe it was, not mistaken, it was Dale Rio from Brooklyn who was taking the shots for us. And
wow.
And yeah, that's not even the pose I got on the album, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
And that's
what was there 10 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 was there 10 people literally in Inspector 7 when you joined?
At the time I joined, it was around that number. So that's funny. We took that for the album. It wound up on the album. One of the people in that. Jason Balsamello, who we also know as Sharky 17. He's not even, he never even wound up on the album. But Inspector Seven's numbers ranged, like, I think at its peak, I think there were like 13 members or something in like
Wow.
1995. It was like 7 horns and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
6 other people. It got a little ridiculous.
That's
But
that's
like
pretty great.
But at that time, yeah, it was about 9-10 people. Yeah, around.
And this looks like an early live show.
Yeah, that's somewhere in upstate New York. I don't remember exactly where. I don't know if it's Port Chester or I forget, somewhere.
Sure.
Big show we played, and that was probably around 90. Maybe that was. I wonder if that was oh no, that was not pre-Infamous. Matt Pinder was in the band, so at that point. So yeah, maybe around, that was probably 97, 98, maybe.
Let me see what else I got. Oh, this is a pretty great one. What's going on here? Boom.
Oh, so I was about to mention in that shot, the infamous shot from the bedroom. You know, there's some of the dearly departed people. The dude who was sitting on the floor before our old bass player Scott, he passed away a few years ago. This is King Joff, one Chris Jefferson. He was a guitarist in Inspector 7, also up until about the time we recorded the Infamous, before Predator joined the band. He went on to form. He was in several bands after, so he was a great punk rock and reggae guitarist. And yeah, this is he and I believe, at the Wetlands, probably 1995, 1996, maybe thereabouts, at a show at the Wetlands. Yeah.
Yeah, the old sweat glands. You know?
Yes, we played there regularly.
Yeah, and I think that I believe this is another very early shot. You're rocking the official hooligan shirt, I see. There you go.
Oh, that's another Wetland show. That's also a Wetland show.
Yeah,
I absolutely remember that. Yes, I definitely no longer fit in that shirt, but yeah.
Yeah, Wetlands is an interesting place. For those that may not know out there or have heard the name, Wetlands was sort of started as like a jam band kind of club where, like, you know, branches of the Grateful Dead family would play there. Or like, this is the guy that like smelled Jerry Garcia's fart 10 years ago, and he's, and they would, anything related to jam bands and stuff like that. But eventually they sort of diversified a bit, doing hardcore shows and ska shows. I mean, I saw some great shows there. I saw Rage Against the Machine there, like very, very, very early on, and there was some great shows at Wetlands, and there was quite a community and a culture there, right?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the great clubs evolved like that. Like even CB's wasn't originally meant to be a punk club, and
right.
In Wetlands, it was this like kind of hippie club, and next thing you know, it's one of the biggest punk clubs in New York, and it was one of our favorite places to play. We used to love it. We used to play there often.
Yeah, it was an interesting place. I think about it every time I come out of the Holland Tunnel and see the place. This is a cool shot. This is, now I know that, and I don't know if we need to explore the whole timeline, but I know that eventually you left, or we'll get into that, but is this an earlier shot, or is this when you guys kind of got back together?
So no, that's also earlier. That's earlier
Okay.
shot. That's for our second album, Banished to Bogeyland. That was a photo shoot. Also right down the street from the Gingerbread House on the corner of Livingston and Welton. There's this big brown church, and we did a whole photo shoot there with actually a family friend, Benoit Corday, who's also a great photographer. Who did that photo shoot with us, and I think this is the shot that wound up on the album. We're minus one person. Predator didn't make the photo shoot. I mean, it was a point of contention for a long time, but yeah. So that's probably 98, I would say, that was taken. I think the album came out in 99, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
So yeah, Inspector 7 was, I mean, we did national tours. It was just the full-time thing from the time I was in 94. And we kind of rode the whole mid-90s ska wave. A lot of people were booking ska bands or booking ska tours. We wound up on Radical Records along with like the Blanks and Submachines, some other bands.
Is that what the Infamous was? The Infamous on that label?
Yeah, the Infamous and Banished to Bogeyland were both on Radical Records, and so we toured a lot on those albums, the national tours and stuff. It was back, when we were in our 20s and can afford to do that. You can run, tour,
Sure.
come back, get another job, or maybe like a really cool job still like holding their spot for you, which was my case in a few times. And then I don't know, it's just like every time some piece of underground music gets picked up by the quasi mainstream and used and abused and then tossed in the garbage,
Right.
things tank and start to kind of taper off, and
Sure.
and the glory's not there anymore. But I mean, I didn't care. I just like playing the music.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people in I-7 just they didn't want to tour anymore, and be out on the road for 2 months. And
let me ask before we. I'm assuming, like you said, you kind of got you were kind of caught in that wave. Was it an exciting time for a while there, like to get out there with your friends and tour as a young person? Was it an exciting like sort of year or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was years.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, 94 we was just playing around Jersey and stuff, and then 95 we started kind of expanding and doing Northeast stuff, and we started hitting like Montreal and Canada, things like that, and it just gradually expanded. And by the time the Infamous came out, and we linked up with a band from Montana, the Skoidats, and just did a whole national tour. And toured with a lot of bands. We met a lot of bands on tour. Skinner Box, Submachine. It's just, and then like I said, the connections you form, like seeing all the different scenes and the subtleties in the different scenes, and playing your music for all these different scenes, and then discovering new bands to be friends with, or new bands you hate and you fight, and like whatever.
Yeah.
It was a whole adventure. It was, I mean, touring. Touring's just, it was. I loved it. I didn't want to stop, but it's rough. It's not like when you're not getting much return, I guess, from it, be it financially or whatever. I can't speak for everyone, but I just feel like a lot of people kind of got just tired and jaded, and we're just like, and I don't know what happened. We just kind of like, we did one last tour with Youth Brigade, Bouncing Souls, and Mustard Plug. I think that was in 2000. And then everything just kind of petered off. Like we stopped playing, we stopped practicing. We certainly weren't writing. And I was like asking the individual people, or even I was good, like, hey, are we still a band? Like, what's going on?
Are we good? Like,
yeah. I don't know if a hiatus was. I literally had no idea what was going on, but it seemed like we weren't playing anymore. And I wasn't done. I was raring to go. So I was like, all right, well, I guess if we're done, I'm gonna form a band. And that's when I formed City Stompers. 2001, I started looking for members.
Sorry, I neglected to put this one up before. This is a great one. So I love this. I love this, bro.
Yes, selfies before selfies, right? So before there was such a, I was the inventor of selfies, skinhead selfies.
You're so proud of those oxbloods, bro. You're like, yo, this is me right here, man.
That's awesome. Another house on Welton Street. That was 67, the infamous 67 Welton Street, which is mentioned in song. And then that was my bedroom.
That's awesome.
Get some classic cliche skinhead stuff. Yeah, the boots, the flag, the news articles.
Yeah. When Inspector 7, when you sort of took that hiatus to that split, was there any sort of conversation, or did you just sort of say, did everyone just sort of, because I know Inspector 7 kept going. I mean,
yeah, so there wasn't a big conversation. It just seemed like there was nothing official, but I don't know. I had the impression, or people certainly gave me the impression that they were done. Like they didn't want to,
Right.
And I was still like acting like to me, it was still 1996 or whatever. And I want to keep going. Sure. So I formed a new band, and some members of Inspector 7 came over with me to that band, or people who were in Inspector 7 at the time. So, I had a good, still had good compliment, but I still had to like cracks to fill in, bass, and I think I wanted another keyboard player, and this, it's
But you cracked the code, or from being Inspector 7, you cracked the code. You knew. I'm assuming you knew what you wanted. You knew what you liked. You knew a lot of things that worked, that didn't work. You were you toured the country. You've been around, so you sort of you got a little taste. You kind of you were able to execute. Hey, this is what I want to do next, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, no, the experience that I had with Inspector 7 and touring, and we quasi managing it, and at any given time, sometimes we had booking agents, sometimes we didn't, sometimes we had managers, and sometimes we didn't, and usually there were record labels involved, but still I learned a lot. So going forward, I was about what to do and what not to do, and even band personnel wise, as far as tension and attitude and trying to be on the same page with everyone. That was all very conscious in my mind in forming Hub City Stompers, for sure. And, the people who came over with me from I-7, Lord Scucci, who was a founding member of Inspector 7, Dustin DK, Adam X. I feel like the fellow John Pizzuto had just joined Inspector 7 on guitar, and then we kind of fizzled out and stopped, and so he came over to Hub City Stompers, and so that was there was this initial lineup, and I had to fill in cracks. And I would literally I just started working, I think, for Rutgers University at that time as a male driver.
Oh wow!
And I'd be going down the streets in New Brunswick, and I'd see somebody with ska patches on their jacket, walking out with a stand-up bass guitar. That's how I found the first bass player for Hub City Stompers, Chris Finnegan.
Love shit like that.
Yo, man, hey, you interested in being? But literally, I was hunting people down and trying people out and all this and that. So, but we eventually wound up with the first official lineup. We did a recording for the label Megalith Records. They had this ska compilation. It was a 4-CD ska compilation. Megalith kind of evolved from Moon Records, the ska label Moon Records, and once that was kind of defunct, Bucket formed Megalith on a smaller scale than Moon was. And it was weird because to me, ska was dead. I'm what compilation are they putting out? What ska bands are going to be on it? There's barely any ska bands. There was some that kind of stood the test of time and kept touring and going, Pie Tasters and Slackers, and which I wish Inspector 7 would have kept doing, and but so we did a very rudimentary track, our first version of what I consider the first HCS song, Night of the Living. We put it on that Still Standing compilation, and then we just started playing shows, and the lineup evolved a little. Adam X moved to sometimes he was guitar, sometimes he was horn. Nuno Rodriguez came in on drums, and we kind of had a good solid first lineup at that point. And but then 2 years later, it was 2003. Giuseppe from Inspector 7 approached me and kind of said, expressed interest in getting things, going with Inspector 7. Oh, maybe we play a couple shows a year, label them reunion shows or whatever. And we kind of did. It was so I think we started playing again. Inspector 7 started playing again in 2003, and we would label them reunion shows, and they would be packed. And, it'd be New Jersey or New York City, maybe twice a year. Mm-hmm. And that was the pattern for a while.
Sure.
So I was coexisting in both bands at once. Mm-hmm. And it was weird because initially I took all the Inspector 7 material that I'd written and playing. I never stopped playing it. I just kept playing it in Hub City, but we were also writing new songs. Like I said, Night of the Living, and then, most of the stuff that wound up on our first album, which wasn't Inspector 7 songs at all. It was all original HCS material. So I was doing both. But then when I-7 was playing, I kind of stopped playing the I-7 material with HCS because, you want to hear that stuff, you go to the I-7 shows, then when we play I-7. So we were coexisting for a while. And then probably for about 9 years we were doing that.
Wow. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah. And then around 2012, maybe it's probably 2010 or so, where we started talking about we should do a new album, a new Inspector 7 album finally. And we started piecemealing this album together in our guitar player Predator's studio, which was to be our third album, Escapes and Illusions. And as that was coming together, all these things were happening. That album was coming together. That's the one. that album was coming together. Our drummer in Hub City Stompers, Nuno, was leaving. Giuseppe was talking to me about maybe bringing the band Inspector 7 back full time. And like, so in my brain, I'm like, shh, you know, I can't do 2 full-time bands. I mean, HCS had its own traction and was already touring and had its own name and had, you know, 10 years of music out at that point. So I suggested maybe kind of like doing a collab of the bands, you know, like I was like, I can't just dump all the HCS stuff. I can't dump the HCS members who've been, you know, kicking ass. I mean, at that point, you know, we had one more lineup change in 2004, which was a major lineup change. And there were just some core members who like, I couldn't be like, well, I'm going to go do Inspector 7 now, you know? So what essentially wound up happening
is this that lineup?
Yeah. So what essentially wound up happening is Giuseppe it was Giuseppe and HCS members wound up forming under the banner of Inspector 7. To me, it was like everything coming full circle, and we were going to have all the material, you know, it was like the whole Inspector 7 world kind of under one banner. But it was rough because it's like, well, what about the old Inspector 7 guys, you know, like they kind of got the shaft because I didn't want to let go of my Hub City people, you know, and I was very clear. I asked Giuseppe if he was down. And he said, yeah, you know, he just wanted to have Inspector 7 back. He in full time. That's his focus. That's always been his baby and, you know, what he wanted to do. So it kind of sucked that, you know, I would have loved to have had some of the original OG I7 members, but we were also talking about touring and getting back on a real regular big touring schedule, which I also kept doing with Hub City. And that's a lot of the reason why some of the early Hub City lineup had to change, because I wanted to tour more than certain people could, like Scoochie. You know, he had a family and stuff, and he couldn't go out on the road like he used to. And, you know, a lot of people couldn't. And the practice schedule we wanted to do and everything. So my HCS crew, they were already ready. Like, you know, they were used to practicing once a week and going out on tour and doing, you know, cranking out albums and stuff. And I think a lot of the older I7 people weren't necessarily in a position to do that. And I knew that. So that's what I offered to Giuseppe. I said, otherwise we can just stay separate and we'll keep doing what we're doing. But he said, no, let's do it. So he essentially joined HCS and we became that version of Inspector 7 for the bulk of 2013. And on paper, it sounded great, but it just didn't work out practically. You know, aside from the fact that it almost didn't feel right without certain people in a way, you know, to me.
Sure.
I mean, people could say, oh, you just need you two, and it's Inspector 7, you know, the two front men, the two face of the, you know, and in a way, yes, but Inspector 7, it's been such a family and evolution, and you know what I mean? It's weird. What about you know, if you're going back out on tour and the people who are used to seeing like, you know, Scoochie and the Ace and Stephanie and Predator, and I don't know, it was kind of weird, but I wanted to give it a try because it sounded great. Like, oh, HCS and I7 and all the material together being played by these really amazing musicians, because HCS are great musicians. But it didn't work in that sense where I had that in the back of my mind. And also, you know, Giuseppe, you know, he's God bless him, but working with him sometimes it's difficult. You ask anyone who's been in Inspector 7. A lot of the things he had agreed to, he kind of went back on. So it made it hard to be like, you know, as far as what we were going to be asking guarantee wise, how much HCS material was going to be involved. I7 hadn't played regularly in 10 years. So I'm like, well, use the Hub City Stompers angle, be like, you know, featuring members of Hub City Stompers and using that angle. And all the fans and following that HCS had gained up to that point would come along and be on board with the Inspector 7, you know, moniker.
Sure.
But then he started treating HCS like a bad word, and you know, and there's other little subtle, you know, personal difficulties and stuff. Like I was like the tampon of the band, trying to like absorb Giuseppe against, you know, and so there wouldn't be tension with the people who weren't used to working with him. I had to put out a lot of fires with promoters and venues and, you know, things like that. And so it got to a point where like what's supposed to be my passion and my love was not fun. And probably around August of 2013, I knew like I'm not going to be able to sustain like this. And some of the other members had expressed unhappiness as well. So yeah, but around the end of 2013, I sat down and had a talk. We had a mature conversation about it, and I was like, listen, I'm going to go back to doing Hub City Stompers.
Yeah. And he continued on with Inspector 7.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do some stuff where like, we're suing each other and like, don't use the Inspector 7 name or because technically it was Inspector 7 before I joined,
Yeah. Right.
So I was going to say, if you want to keep using the Inspector 7 name, God bless. If anyone from our current lineup wants to stay with you, God bless. So be it. And we just, we'll go our separate ways and everything. Now the whole band wanted coming with me. It's like I wanted the kids in a divorce, I guess you could say. And
we want to go with Dad.
Yeah. Well, but I thought we were gonna like, in my brain, I still wanted to go forward and work with Inspector 7 and support Inspector 7, and we'd be like a team kind of thing, and still, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
But it didn't wind up happening that way. Like, I don't know if after that amicable conversation we had, I don't know if he had second thoughts and got mad about what happened or whatever, but he kind of just cut me off and blocked me on all social media and didn't really talk to me anymore. And
it was like that. It was weird. Good old social media.
Yeah, social media, but even like socially, like I don't know. It's just, and he'd say, "Oh no, everything's cool," but like, you know what I mean? Like, well, why can't we work together then? Why can't our bands be, But I don't know. I think he was just resentful of the whole HCS thing.
It happens, man.
And I agree I understand to a degree, but and then I think in 2016. We met up at a show that HCS was playing in Asbury Park, and we were back in, Roy Ellis. Roy Ellis.
Was that the punk rock bowling thing? Yeah, I was going to ask you about that pillow. What's up with that?
This is the Roy Ellis pillow. Myself and the Snow Queen and the boss himself, Roy Ellis.
Was that at the punk rock bowling thing that was down there?
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. I'm trying to remember because I get things mixed up. Maybe that was.
I got a couple shots of me and my kid with him in the hotel. I think, if it's that show,
maybe it's possible.
Yeah,
but our drummer at the time, Pip, he had those pillows made for everybody.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Hanging out with Roy. Yeah. But anyway, at that very show where that picture was taken, it seemed like there was going to be like an olive branch extended. Like he and I were drinking at the bar together and talking and maybe talking about getting back together and, doing I-7 stuff and to some degree and this and that. And he had since moved on with like another lineup and different people and this and that. It would, it seems like it would change and fluctuate often, but whatever. He was still carrying on the banner, the I-7 banner. And no sooner had that olive branch been like extended, and it seemed like he snapped it and shoved it right up my ass. And because
what are friends for?
My bass player comes running out like, dude, you got to get backstage now. I'm like, what's going on? You got to get backstage now. I go back and he's back there in the ear of Roy Ellis's manager. So we were backing Roy Ellis and Inspector 7. While Giuseppe was in the band, had in that version, the Hub City merge version, we had backed him at another fest in Connecticut a few years earlier. So when he came back, he wanted the same musicians backing him again. We were Hub City Stompers now, so he asked us to back them, and because they did a fantastic job. And he was basically back there. I guess he took umbrage with the fact that Inspector 7 or whatever the current version of Inspector 7 wasn't asked or something. I don't know. He was yelling at the manager, Tony. He was in Roy Ellis's ear saying, "I'm the boss in New Jersey." He was doing all this, saying all this. I don't know if he was just drunk or whatever, but it was just like, dude, we just made peace. And like, what's going on, man? Like, so at that point I was like, oh man, like, I kind of threw my hands up. Like, what was I going to do? But even after that, I was pissed and I let things cool off. And Django of, King Django, Skinner Box, all that New York ska and reggae legend. Well, New Jersey now. Mm-hmm. He's been in Jersey since 2000, so we claim him now. But he wound up joining Inspector 7 on keys and also helping kind of manage things and run things. And he has the studio and they can practice there. And even ever since, like for the past, 9 years, I've been kind of just saying to Django, Giuseppe ever wants to talk, like, I'm here, man. Like, like, I'll work with him.
Life
should have this, like, you know, it shouldn't be
plays
like
out that way sometimes, man.
Absolutely.
I could give you the list of the 5 people I have like that in my life that, like, hey, it just happens that way sometimes. It's just, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's just a shame. It's just because I think, like, we worked together. Imagine HDS and I7 on like the same bill, or you know what I mean. And I'm not even me talking about me joining the band again. I mean, I even offered to. You know, I work it again. I feel like the terms that he joined the band, that we reformed the band under back in 2013, were very hard for him, and he didn't realize how hard it was going to be. You know.
Sure.
And he probably, you know, maybe on second thought, he wouldn't have agreed to it, and we would have just kept doing what we should have just kept doing what we were doing, playing every I7 when we could, and HDS being the, you know, regular band. But
makes sense.
We did what we did, and you know, it didn't work out. But yeah, to this day, it's like, you know, even through the anger, I'm like, my hand's still here. If you ever want to, like, work things out, man, you know.
Well, I'm sure someone that's watching is going to reach out to him. Hey, I got to take a sponsor break. Let me take a quick sponsor break, and we'll come back and we'll talk some more Hub City Stompers and Steel Toe Solution in the future, and we got a special surprise coming up after the break. So we'll see you back in a couple minutes, okay?
Absolutely.
That's it. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Reverend Sinister from the Hub City Stompers. We're going to do some we're going to hear from our sponsors, and then we got a special guest to come on and do his thing who hasn't been on the show in a long time. Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Yo, what's happening? I'm out here at one of our all-ages Sunday matinees on the Bowery. I hope that you are enjoying today's show. I just want to let you know that the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live needs your support. Please step up. There is a Patreon page that has a lot of unique program. Shows are announced there first. Lots of good stuff. There's a PayPal address right there on the screen if you want to make a contribution. There's also a super chat function. You could do that, but the bottom line is this show exists because of your support. We're going to be doing it for a long, long time. Thank you for all your support through the years. Back to the show.
Conditioned by indoctrination, conditioned by society. You're a victim of the digital age, a 21st century casualty. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Conditioned by misinformation, it's just the media telling us lies. Decipher fiction from the truth. Society's slow and tragic demise. Open your eyes, you're losing control. Open your eyes, put down the phone. Everyone's got their fucking opinion.
Boom, we're back on a Wednesday, on a rainy Wednesday here in New York City. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's up, everybody out there? Hope your day is going well, or your night if you're in Europe. Want to mention some upcoming shows this Sunday. Carl Gale will be on. Corrosion of Conformity, Leadfoot Seizure, Lie Heavy, The Skull, Legions of Doom. Joel Gustin will be co-hosting this show with me, which I always enjoy. A week from today, photographer Dina Douglas will be on the show, co-hosted by Lori Dawn from Women of the Pit. A week after that is Kurt from DRI. Everyone's looking forward to that. Adam Blake from H2O celebrating the 25th anniversary reissue of Faster Than the World on Sunday, March 23rd. A lot of photographers coming on the show. Sometimes it just breaks out that way. Sunday, March 30th, David Plastic, photographer. Should be interesting. Can't announce that one, but this one's been announced. Wednesday, April 9th, Jay Blakesberg, photographer, will be on the show. A lot of photographer shows. What's going on? Crazy. But excited to have Jay on the show. He has this book out called Punk, Volume 1, Issue 2, curated by his daughter. And there might even be, listen, I'm warning you beforehand about this Jay Blakesberg show. There might be a little Grateful Dead talk in the show because he's one of the Grateful Dead photographers. So don't be scared on that one. That's right. Blakesberg was a Grateful Dead photographer. That's right. We all saw it. Nobody saw it. You didn't see Shiznit. What did you see? You saw that? No, you didn't. Anyway, hey, we're bringing back an old friend here. It's kind of like a nostalgia thing, and we're bringing back for today. We're doing Record of the Week, and the host of Record of the Week, of course, Sid the Kid. What's up, Sid?
Wow, Drew, how long has it been now? Year or two, something like that.
Yeah, it's been a couple years, bro.
Jesus, wow. Hey, I'm glad to be back, Drew. Thank you for having me on today. And the record is definitely one. Hey, for those who are watching really quick, Drew even contacted me this morning and asked me. But I was like, Travis is on the show, and this record came up like automatic for him because it definitely resonates with me and with Travis as well.
Okay, let's bring Travis back on. Reverend Sinister, Hub City Stompers. Hey, man.
What's it going to play? Time Bomb? No, just kidding.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yo, so Sid, you were in that video?
They filmed this. I know exactly how this happened. Basically, it was one of the matinees that Jesse and Kendra booked at Coney Island High. Just around the time, just before the Rancid record came out, they were asking just a ton of us, hey, do you want to be in a video, X, Y, and Z? Yeah. So they told us to show up at some it was kind of abandoned, but not really, some building across the street from ABC No Rio at the time. This is back in 95. And during the filming, and maybe Travis remembers this, but a bunch of like crusty punk kids were like trying to throw shit up through the windows at us. And certain people who shall remain nameless went downstairs and smacked them around a little bit.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't know about legalities and stuff, but
I
even offered us money to do so.
It's been 30 years, and I doubt either of those kids have money unless they're still living with their parents up in the suburbs or whatever. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, good. All right. So that said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, this is Record of the Week.
Boom.
So there you go.
There now.
Sid, tell us about this, and then we'll ask Rev if this resonates with him at all. So what do you got, Sid?
Well, I'm going to cut it short and sweet here, everybody. This is the Wretched Ones' initial release that came out back in 1993. I believe about at least 15, 16 songs on this record alone. At least 5 are well-known. And one specifically on this record, God knows how many punk and skinhead bands have covered this band. Blood for Blood is pretty much one of the more well-known bands for covering said specific track on this record. I believe is Going to the Bar, which is a classic. I mean, over 30 years later, people, young and old, still scream that goddamn song anytime you hear it at a show or when a band plays it. There were absolute regulars at the Pipeline where Travis, played a ton of shows. One of the first shows I got to see Inspector 7 back, I believe, mainly like 95, 96 up to about 98. I would was a regular going to the Pipeline to see the Wretched Ones, Inspector 7. You know, even we had Urban Riot. We have had a bunch of New York bands come around, but New Jersey, between even like 94 to 98, quite honestly, if you were from New Jersey, they had a really good crop of bands coming out specifically. And a lot of people don't know about bands like Dysfunctional Youth, the Wretched Ones. I mean, they do now over the decades, but at that time, even with the internet being in its infancy, not a lot of bands knew, you know, like how good they had it back then, you know. There is, Drew, not to cut up, but there is one flyer. I'm see if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, hold on. Let me. You know what? Let's ask Rev. Rev, is this a record, a band that resonated with you at all?
Resonate's not even the word, man. The Wretched Ones are just, that's New Jersey punk, man. That's it. I mean, yeah, Inspector 7, we played tons of shows with them, even up into through HCS. Played with Wretched Ones until they stopped playing. My eternal side project, Steel Toe Solution, we shared the stage with them a lot, and we even we currently cover Time Marches On. I wish I had a beer with me now. I would raise it to BT, the recently departed guitar player of the Wretched Ones, died not too long ago. But the Wretched Ones are, yeah, if you're going to talk about New Jersey punk and you don't mention the Wretched Ones, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, that whole Headache Records family and that whole, you know, Niblick Hembang, you know, the Blanks, those unknown Wretched Ones, it's just, they're the classic. They're the best. There's no other like them.
Yeah, for the time they were around, I mean, if you wanted to talk about just straight straight punk rock, that from New Jersey, that was the band. That was the go-to band back then. This
is a very interesting flyer from that era, from the Pipeline. Exploited, the Wretched Ones, Biohazard, and Typo Negative. Get a load of that lineup, man. Holy shit.
Well, that whole show didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't?
Nope. Because, I mean, unless we had Billy and some of the other members on, they could tell you otherwise. A riot broke out that night, and the cops came out, and it was literally, parts of it had to be, and this is no exaggeration, a scene out of the Warriors. Like, straight up cops coming in.
Wait, a riot broke out before the show started?
No, during the show, because there was a shitload of fights going on that night.
During whose set?
Oh, Jesus. I think it was, and I'm not trying to like point a finger, it may have been Biohazards, if I'm not mistaken. So about the time the Exploited got on, and it really, I think they got 1 or 2 songs in, that was like game over. And cops came in and shit just got really wild. And to run around the streets of Newark at that time, that's why I'm putting the Warriors aspect within it. Because walking around those streets back then, up until maybe 2009, was not a fucking joke. It was
Napoleon says, I was there, guns were drawn. Cops thought I was a done skinhead, quote unquote, leader.
Yep. I actually forgot about that with Nap too. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, even though this is over like 3.5 decades old, this show.
It was the Glory from UK. What is that? It was the what is that? It was the Glory from UK.
The Glory is actually, if I'm not mistaken, Mark McGee, who was in Anti-Heroes, also played at that band at the time as well. So that was one of the more memorable shows. But like, getting onto really quickly, like when Travis, like they would play together, they did a lot of really good shows at the Pipeline. They played a handful of shows at Coney Island High when TC was booking shows at the time. It was just like, again, between 94 to 98, you know, specific just for New York and New Jersey, like oi and punk rock. It was like everybody, for the most part, got along. There's always
bar. Seth Finberg from Blackout Shoppers says, "What's up, Rev?"
Yes, he does. I see.
but Brighton Bar forever. Yeah, that was.
I was going to say that's what we play with the Wretched Ones all the time at Brighton Bar. That was one of the main spots too.
Brighton Bar's long gone, right? That's long.
A few years gone. Yeah.
Yeah, few years gone. Sid, thank you, and I see that what's going on with this show here. I see 21 Gun Salutes playing. I love that band. What are you DJing this?
Yeah, I'm grateful. Like I'm happy to go out for LA Punk Invasion. For those who don't know, just look it up on the internet. There's literally, I think, 4 or 5 pre-shows going on within a 3-day period. And this is one of them right here. It's gonna be at Characters in Pomona, which is about an hour drive from LA. But look at this lineup from top to bottom. Like you have 1983, Rally Cry, California Slugger. They just recently put out a record called Dead State, which is really good. 21 Gun Salute, Hometown Boys, and you got Lions Law, and they're going to be playing the day before Invasion. And the lineup for Invasion, I believe, is 43 bands, 4 stages in within a 12-hour period. Like
Wow.
that's literally insane.
Yeah, I saw that lineup. I saw that, and I'm like, I was looking at it. Is this one day? I'm like,
yes, it is.
I was confused. I was like, how could this be one day?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get to like absolute logistics of it because I'm not the promoter, but this is a Live Nation venue, so people who've dealt with Live Nation, you know the deal. Because quite honestly, in my opinion, and I've stated this openly, and Nacho's one of the nicest guys around, but you know, having that many bands in one day is impossible because you literally have to pick and choose. If you spread that out 2 days, then it's more of a fair shot, you know. But when the tickets are going anywhere between, I believe, like 140 to 200, and people complained about that. But when you see how many headlining bands are on that bill, you really can't even bitch, moan, and complain about it. You know,
Yep.
It's even I'm going to be picking and choosing. Like I'm definitely going to be getting my steps in, running around for 12 hours that day. And then, of course, actually, even before coming up this Monday, as you see here, everybody, the Unseen are going to be playing LA Punk Invasion, but I'm also going to have Mark from the Unseen on the show. We're just going to go nuts talking about punk rock, pizza, all kinds of kooky shit. And then we might also have a special guest, which I'm still kind of working on that myself. Drew, before I go really, really quick, I want to show something really fast. I'm kind of pulling a Rap Bones, but I'm not going to long-wind this one here.
Don't worry, you'll get the hook within 90 seconds, so go ahead.
All right, so for those who are wondering, I finally got some freaking swag, finally. For those, hey, if you come to a show, buy some shit. But I got this got one of these like nice little flattery stickers here that I got. There's one of those here, one of those, and then some for my band. But the creme de la resistance is this little bastard right here. Oh yeah, Drew. See, even Drew got one. But see, yeah. Even like nice little.
I got one. I got one comped. My wife paid for one, and she paid for that which is okay. Buy one get one free.
Well, Drew. To be fair, it's been 5 years. I've been doing your shows, so I'm like, hey,
bro, listen.
Drew, you want a shirt? Here you go.
I appreciate. You know what? We were just saying today. We like the show. We like the shirt. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and Drew, like, you know, one of the people between you, Jesse, Jake from Rocksoft, everybody who's basically booked me, I sincerely do appreciate it. I'm not just some idiot who will just hit a button. I actually take the time to work on a show.
All right, stop pontificating how great you are, Sid. We know how great you are, Sid.
I'm not great.
All right, listen. What's next? What are you going to start carrying on about?
I'm just SDK sound system. I'm not great.
All right. Hey, you know what? And thank you, Sid. That's good. Let's. You have to come back and do this again soon. It was great to have you back, Sid.
Well, Drew, give me more than just like the morning of, you know, because I like to do the research a little more. Like
you're DJing this show, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, the infamous CMI show. Ooh.
Yeah. Sid the Kid is DJing a free all ages Sunday matinee, Sunday, April 13th. Conservative Military Image, Incendiary Device, Murderer's Row, American Eagle, and Faded Line, and Sid the Kid sound system. So,
and I might play some music too. Ooh.
All right, Sid. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you. Woo! What a workout with that kid, huh?
You were getting into, man.
Yeah, he's got a good heart, Sid the Kid.
Yeah. Let's Characters in Pomona. That's one of HCS's favorite tour stops. Is
that right?
When Gonzo books us at Characters, it's one of our favorite spots to tour through, Pomona, California.
You know, while we're on the subject of sort of going out with Hub City Stompers, what are some of the places that really when you see it on the itinerary, you're like, wow, I can't wait to get back there. There's people that love us there. Are there any real hot spots for Hub City around the world that you just time and time again, they just love you there?
Yeah, I mean, stateside. I mean, like I said, Texas, where it's obviously that's going to be.
That's wild, Texas, huh?
Yeah, Texas, California, Chicago. Like I said, we like playing Florida, Pacific Northwest. Thank God we got back up there at the end of summer '23. That was awesome too. But yeah, there's some places that have really come out and just rep special. Like I said, like Southern California and yeah, Texas.
Wow.
All three scenes. I mean, we usually do like a triangle of like, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and I know most people would be like, oh, and we do Austin as well. But most people are like, oh, Austin, it's a big music city, this and that. But like, we've always had a special relationship with San Antonio, Texas.
That's wild.
Yet, just not just that they come out and they're nuts down there. I mean, we've, the first few times we played there, I'm not even sure if the set finished because like riots broke out and stuff. But we like to finish our sets. Obviously, we don't come out just to watch people fight and everything, but. I just mean like the passion and the numbers that come out when we're down there, and just the really good people. We love playing Texas. Yeah.
Right on. And overseas?
Overseas. So overseas we've only we've played England a few times. There's a fest called Specialize that we've been on a couple times down in Bournemouth at the bottom of England there. That's always fun. As far as mainland Europe goes, we've only toured there once. We're looking to get back there, obviously, but
sure.
We did a tour there with the Toasters.
Right on.
That was back. I was back in 2007. But it was amazing. It was it's one of those things where it's like I'm kicking myself that we haven't been back yet. I feel like I should be, trying a little harder to get back there. So, but I have a couple ideas in mind, but mostly based around Germany. Most of the shows were actually in Germany, and Germany was awesome. That was a great place to play. And then Mexico, as somebody noted in the notes there, and I was actually going to mention, we were talking about Inspector 7. Inspector 7 wound up developing a huge following in Mexico. Now, Mexico
I saw that. Someone mentioned that. Yeah.
I mean, Mexico in general has this huge ska scene that just never dies.
That's crazy.
It just doesn't wax and wane, kind of like a lot of
ska. The ska scene in Mexico is strong.
I'm telling you, it's the biggest crowd we've ever played in front of has been in Mexico.
That's awesome.
We played 3 shows down there, and one was a fest called Ska Wars in Monterrey.
Ska Wars, I love it.
We have never played to a lot. It's thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
That's awesome.
Now, I mean, I could, like I said, we do have our own following down there, but I mean, I'd probably be remiss if I didn't mention that. Like part of it is because of the Inspector 7 connection. Inspector 7, like Giuseppe still goes down there now, be it with or without a band. Like he's gone down there and had just bands back him, and Giuseppe Mancini of Inspector 7, and it's huge and packed. He brings the current iteration of Inspector 7 down there to play huge fests. That's kind of like his main. That's really their main market now. Actually, I mean they go down there and they kill it. But yeah, so that's also one of our favorite places to play where we're looking to get back to. And there's other places we haven't played yet that we'd love to hit. But yeah, those are some of our favorite markets.
So let me ask you. Let's change gears a little bit and tell us about Steel Toe Solution and how this band came to be. Was there a mission statement and sort of how the hand has played out with Steel Toe Solution?
Steel Toe Solution I will always refer to as my eternal side project, because that's literally, I mean, that's what it is. But I love it. The Greek god known as Jerry D, he came to me probably around, I'm trying to think of when he started bugging me to, I was doing my ska thing with Inspector 7 back in the 90s, and he wanted to form, he labeled it, he wanted to say an Oi band, but, and I was like, oh yeah, that'll be easy enough. It's fucking Oi, But, so by 97, we got things going with an initial lineup, and he also came up in the New Jersey and New York hardcore scene with me, and we're very hardcore influenced. So it wound up being not just like Oi band. It's obviously, if you listen to it, it's Oi fused with hardcore for sure. And we've always, we haven't gotten out of the area much. I think the farthest we played is like Milwaukee. We only put out one album. We only play once or twice a year. It's usually the songs from that album and maybe some covers that vary. But it's fun.
Sure.
It's always fun. People enjoy it. In a sense, obviously, I would like to do more with STS and get STS out more. I'd like to eventually put out a second.
We got to get you up to do one of the well, we have a show together coming up, but I think Steel Toe would be a great band to bring up to the Bowery Electric for one of our matinees. That'd be a blast.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's a no-brainer, man. Yeah.
And as you see in this picture now, we have if we have 3 guitar players, so if one can't do it, then we're still good. So. But yeah, that just evolved over the years, and it's always just been this, play once or twice a year, get together, and it's Jerry D and I are the the original founding members, and we're still there. And now there's members of Hub City Stompers in there, and it's been running a long time. So yeah, we have one album out called 8 Year War that we put out. What was that, 2005, when we were 8 years old at that point. But we're still going. We're still playing, believe it or not.
Yeah, three guitars, man. Molly Hatchet. Yep. Absolutely. No, it's good when you have 3 guitar players, because if one can't do it, you could still move forward. You could still knock it out. Yeah,
it usually winds up where we're just playing with 2. Yeah. Usually all 3 can't do it. But there has been a couple instances where we've had 3. What I call the guitar.
Threes. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's the most stripped down version there when there was 4 of us. So.
Right. Ooh.
We only needed one. That was Burn the Beekeeper on guitar at that point. He's actually the guitarist on the album, and he was.
Bert the Beekeeper.
Yeah, that's what we used to call him, Burn the Beekeeper. I forget why.
Was he a beekeeper?
He wasn't. I would have loved it if he was an actual beekeeper. Maybe Jerry D he'd have to shed light on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seth Feinberg says 2 guitarists and Timmy. So yeah, I mean, Tim Miller, who's also in a million freaking bands. So.
Yeah.
Tim's available, he'll play with us basically.
Yeah. So cool. Let's steer it back to some Hub City stuff. And Hub City's been really pretty proficient with release wise through the years. I mean, there's a bunch of releases. Anything you feel like let me in just doing my homework, a couple like Haters Dozen really stood out to me. I really enjoyed. I kind of returned to that a couple of times, and I really enjoy the latest release. I like the way it's produced. It sounds great. Drink and Rage, but I know it's a little later on in the game, but could you give me some perspective on Haters Dozen?
So prior to this last album being released, and we've released 8 albums at this point. At the merch table, when people ask, oh, what's your best album? And it's like, up until that point, we had 7 albums prior to this one. And
right.
I always say Dirty Jersey is like our defining album. It's our 3rd album, but it's like the album that really kind of defined us as a sound and an attitude and a band. The first one, Blood, Sweat, and Beers, like laid the foundation. The second one, Mass Appeal, was like an EP. But the third one, Dirty Jersey, really solidified it. But Haters Dozen is what I would say is our best out. It's the first one where we were just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this. This is great.
It sounds like it's clicking, actually, listening to that record.
Yeah, it's just everything's just gelled in. It's produced wonderfully. We had switched up studios at that point, and we were recording at a different place, and it just wound up working out better. And I don't know, that's where we were just like, we're all very happy with that. And
is this that lineup or at that moment? Do I have this right?
Yes, that is the Haters Dozen line, and that's the same lineup we have now. I mean, we've had this lineup for quite some time. Greg on the my far right, on the far right of the screen there. He was our drummer up until last year, technically up until the end of 2023. We were looking for a drummer for like a year. He was still helping us out and filling in and stuff, but he's not hasn't officially been our drummer in over a year. But yeah, he's on that. But that's the lineup for Haters Does. And
Hey,
then
I
after-
want to shout out Jorge Rodriguez and
Yeah.
and
I just
take
saw him.
advantage. Yeah, and mention we've mentioned this during the show, but this is the actual flyer. Sunday, March 16th, the New York Hardcore Chronicles and Authentic Productions NYC proudly present the Back to New York Hardcore Roots series. Hub City Stompers, Rebelmatic, Ancient Domains, DIYing Breed, Ill Raised, DJ Cindy Half Rats. This is at Berlin. It's a free show. This is a banger. Jorge's like the executive promoter. And he's the guy that brought you guys in, and I really appreciate it. And really looking forward to this. I just wanted to make mention of the show. I'm really excited that we have this coming up together.
No, I'm amped for that lineup. I love lineups like that. It's just, you know, people that I hate playing. I always love like mixed genre lineups, or even if it's like same general genre, each band's doing their own thing and they're so distinct from each other. I've never liked playing like all ska shows, or you know, obviously we do from time to time, but a mixed bill is always like mixing up the genres and just having underground music. That's always been my premise. And HCS has so many influences music wise, you know, not just within ska, but from outside of hardcore and oi and hip hop and everything else, you know. And that's evident on the new record, Drink and Rage. I mean, we were already kind of all over the place, but this latest album, Drink and Rage, which just came out in December on Jumpstart Records, it's you couldn't get more all over the place, just sound wise. It's everywhere. It's
there you go.
That's at the old Ale and Witch in New Brunswick. It was Chris Gobo Pierce kicking us out of the bar.
There you go. Yeah, there's a couple others that we wanted to. Here's this is. Oh, I'm just trying to. This is a photo shoot for the new record, correct? These shots.
Well, that last one was, and there's some. Yeah, that was in the back of the Allen Witch. Wearing my 21 Gun Salute shirt.
Yeah.
James is rocking his 45 Adapter shirt.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff.
And I couldn't make it on the album, but yeah, there's some other those are some of the other shots.
Let me take a quick sponsor break, and we'll come back. We'll take questions from around the world, and we'll talk about what other shows are upcoming. That's right, Jorge. We are all looking forward to it, bro. And yep. I'll see you. This is a quick one. I'll see you in a minute, okay? It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. What's up? Our guest today is Reverend Sinister from the Hub City Stompers. Get your questions together. Go deep. Get weird. Whatever questions you have. I know some people asked some questions earlier on in the show. Please repost them. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, and we are sponsored by blah, 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 and Mad Vintage. Mad Vintage buys, sells, collects band shirts, primarily hardcore. The DIY operation was started and is operated by a hardcore kid who just loves collecting and eventually got into vintage clothing, specifically the realm of vintage band shirts. They are always looking to buy out collections to either keep, sell, or trade. New shirts added daily at www.madvintage.com and posted on Instagram. Dig deep into that closet of crap and reach out to them. Help me help you, Mad Vintage. Last but not least, come on now, Joe Ramini, the Texas Silver Rush, is a jewelry designed from a boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as to style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Gregory Lee Ringo Starr and, of course, Agnostic Front. Information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and, of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Want to mention some upcoming shows just real quick. We'll bang through these. Post your questions. Don't be shy. Let them fly. Sunday, March 16th, that is a week from this Sunday. Of course, this Sunday right here, Carl Legel will be on the show. A week from that, Hub City Stompers at Berlin. Saturday, March 29th, out in, I think, is it a VFW hall or and American Legion Hall. This is one of those down gritty DIY shows. Sworn Enemy, Silence Equals Death, Incendiary Device. Come on now, it's going to jump off tonight. Robots and Monsters, and Redwoods, featuring Colton Schuler, son of Danny Schuler. We will be out there in Jersey, Incendiary Device style. Speaking of Staten Island, Enrage, Cropsey, ID, and Tear Gas at Mother Pugs, the new and improved Mother Pugs, on Friday, February 11th. We mentioned CMI 2 days later on April 13th at the Bowery Electric. Yo, come on, Rampage Fest, May 4th. Brought to you by Hegs, Sworn Enemy, Silence Equals Death, Brass Knuckle Brigade, Redwoods, Life of Deceit, formerly Gunk, and No Comply. So, a lot going on there. Hey, yo, all you patrons out there, we are going out on Saturday, May 10th, and we are doing the cinematic and music walking tour. All patrons are welcome. If you're not a patron, please get with the program. There it is. Join Patreon, be a patron, support the show, and come out and do the walking tour with us. It is free. If it's free, it is for me. We mentioned the Tompkins Square Park show, Saturday, May 24th. Come out into our beloved Tompkins Square Park. It just so happens that same day, I will be out in Las Vegas playing punk rock bowling. The show is sold out. So if you didn't buy a ticket, you're ass out of luck. ID, Stalag 13, The Effigies, Negative Approach, and 7 Seconds. Woo! Hey, you're all invited to my wedding bash at the Bowery Electric on Sunday, June 1st. My War is playing. As we did before, we're going to have a whole bunch of special guest singers coming up, guest DJs. There's going to be food. I am marrying the Hellcat on stage Sunday, June 1st. This just got announced the other day, Sunday, June 22nd, Channel 3, Malavista, Chemical X, Chumhuffer, and Beast from the East, DJ Sid the Kid Sound System. Sunday, July 3rd. A lot of Bowery Electric shows, free, all ages, have been announced, including this one. July 13th, Fury of 5, speaking of Jersey, Shoot to 5, The Long Wait, featuring ex-members of SSD Control and Slapshot, and Wrecking Crew, Jerry Body, and Thug It. So there you go on that. And we announced this the other day, Crazy Eddie's final show, Sunday, August 3rd. It is a Bronx County Historical Society proudly presents a celebration of heavy and hard music from the Bronx at the Bowery Electric. Free, all ages, Sunday matinee. Crazy Eddie final show, Brass Knuckle Brigade, the return of Enziguri, 4 in the Chamber, and Go to Mentis. Yeah. So there you go. And by the way, not to harp on it, but ID's playing Crash Fest out in San Francisco. The whole lineup hasn't been announced, but we're looking forward to getting out to San Francisco. So that said, that's right. That's right, Mimi Fugget. So that said, let's bring back our guest, Reverend Sinister, and let's do a couple of questions. Ray Hogan asks, this question comes all the time in jazz. Are you comfortable with the term ska, and how would you define it?
I mean, that's like saying, are you comfortable with the term punk, or comfortable with the term hardcore, or comfortable with the term oi? Very. I mean, if you mean as far as the band being labeled ska, yeah, because we're ska at our base, even though we have a lot of outside influences, like I mentioned, hardcore, oi, hip hop, everything. But I'm fine with the label of it. As for the defining, I mean, I'm fine with the, Google or Wikipedia definition of it. Ska is what ska is. But the thing is, it's hard to define it if you're going to talk about just specific sound now, because it has evolved so much over the years. I mean, if you're talking about original traditional ska, and then you listen to what's some bands that are considered the ska genre now, there's not a lot of similarity, there's been so much evolution between, traditional and two-tone and what people call third wave. And then, there's never been more outside influence involved in ska than there is now. And I'm not even complaining about that. I'm not one of those who complain about that. I mean, listen to our last album. Be pretty hypocritical of me to try to be some sort of ska purist here. I think the roots should always be respected, and and acknowledged, but that not every band has to stick to this formula or that. I mean, how boring would that be as a scene if all the bands sounded the same? So I mean, even within our band, our songs don't even sound the same. We have songs different. So.
Hey, there he is, Frankie Too Far. What do you say, buddy? About time you showed up. Have you seen your hardcore trading card? Have you seen that?
Do I have one? I didn't think I had one. Do I? I don't have one. I don't have a trading card, do I?
There you go, right
Do
there.
I not have my
There it is.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. Now I do, huh?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, what's it going for? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a collector's item. That's the front. I like that shirt. For the Worst Skinhead. Is that what it is? Is that a band?
Yeah,
For the Worst?
Yeah, they were a band. I don't think they're not anymore. I don't think they play anymore, but they were great. They were fun. They were a fun band to play with.
And here is the back. Here is the back of it. There you go. Inspector 7, the Squidats. Is that right?
Yeah, the Squidats. Yeah, so that's, remember I mentioned that first tour that Inspector 7 did, and we linked up with a band called the Squidats that we formed a tight relationship with, and yeah, they're out of Montana at the time. But I did some of their tracks. We did some guest vocals, and yes, the Broken Heroes. I did some guest vocals. Oh, that's right, and I did that Shandon track. That's right. Wow.
Look at this personal trivia. Travis Nelson, a.k.a. Rev Sinister, grew up listening to the classic rock his parents enjoyed, but he learned about punk, hardcore, ska, and hip-hop through his older brother by sneaking into his bedroom to listen to his records. Then, in 1987, Rev saw his first punk show, Fishbone, at the legendary City Gardens in Trenton, New Jersey. Right on. You got that right.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. There you go.
Does it come with the gum?
Yeah, what kind of gum? What flavor gum? Great.
I see once in a while you got these guys on Instagram. They're like, I'm opening up a pack of 1965, baseball cards, and like the gum is in there still. And some of them actually put the gum in their mouth. Some of them don't.
Can I ask Frank? Ask a question. Can I ask Frank a question?
Yeah.
Frank, what do I do? The next time someone mistakes me for Puerto Rican, what should I do?
The question, Frankie Too Far, is if the Rev is accused or mistakenly identified as Puerto Rican, what should he do?
I'd say accused is the proper term.
Accused. Yeah.
Not if. It happens all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Pull
a knife, he says.
Yeah. Confirm it, and pull a knife.
Pat Baldwin asks, these days, does Rev find himself listening to the original Jamaican ska / reggae or more later eras?
Both. Because there's bands from every genre and time period that I like. I mean, I can't have, the Paragons. How can I Roy Ellis, original Roy Ellis and Simmer Up I love listening to. The Paragons are probably my favorite band from the initial era. There's every time a Paragons song comes on, I just can't not listen to it. So while two-tone is my favorite, I guess, subgenre, there's bands in every subgenre that I enjoy. I mean, you could probably probably not a two-tone band you can mention that I don't like, but like, some of my favorite bands. I mean, I like the Busters, from that nice early European 80s ska sound, and I like ska core bands like Mephscopheles and Brunovich and some of our peers.
Yeah.
I like 8-6 Crew out of France, who mixes ska with the oi, kind of like we did, us and the Squidats did along those lines. So I like all kinds. Yeah.
GXSS, is there any new favorite ska bands? Is there any younger people, like, or I guess when you say new favorite ska bands, not necessarily means young people, but I'm going to kind of modify it. Have you seen like any new young people ska bands of late?
I don't know if the ones, I'm not the best at following all the new bands, so I don't even know if what I would mention would be considered new or not. But to my brain, they're new because I guess because I'm old. But like that whole whatever everyone's calling this new tone stuff. I don't even know if that's why bother labeling it that. But I mean I just like the sound. But like I mean Catbite's not a new band per se, but in my brain, because you've been around so long, I always think of them as they're kicking ass and they're touring all over the world, and I love their sound. I love Catbite. They're one of my favorite bands to play with. They surpassed us, and we open for them now. They're really good.
Yeah.
Bad Operation out of New Orleans. I like them. So yeah, but for some reason I feel like they get put into this label, and I'm sorry I even mentioned it, but I should just mention the band names and not the stupid genre sort of subgenre label they get lumped into. So yeah, bands like that, I would recommend the Catbite, Bad Operation if you're not familiar with them already. I mean, most people are familiar with Catbite at this point.
Let's talk about what's coming up, and I know this is kind of on the agenda.
Yeah, so that's
tell us about this. Yeah,
huge. That's an annual show, happens every spring in it's right outside of Philly. People kind of call it Philly, but it's technically not Philly. But it's Ben Salem, PA, like just northeast of Philly, right across the river from Jersey. And this is not Croydon Fest. And just like the Supernova Ska Fest in Virginia, which we've played a lot, which happens in September of every year. And you're wondering, gosh, how are they going to outdo last one? This is not Croydon Fest seems to outdo themselves every time. I mean, Stubborn All Stars, Pie Taster, Scoffley, you can see it, the lineup there. And a bunch of, even the openers they get are off the chain, Bandulus, from the Pacific Northwest, and our good buddies, Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
Planet Smashers from Montreal. I mean, that's
Jay Navarro's there. What is the Traders?
Yeah, it's Jay Navarro and the Traders. Jay Navarro from Suicide Machine. Yeah, it's Jay Navarro and the Traders, and they're fun as hell. All the bands on there are like bands I love playing with. Yeah,
that's a hard-working dude, Jay Navarro. That dude's always got, he's always hustling, that kid.
He's always going, but that's going to be off the chain. That's 3 days. I personally think that, you should go to all 3 days if you can. It might be sold out at this point. I heard, but our particular night is like the party night. It's Pie Tasters, Catbite, Kill Lincoln, Mephistopheles, Westbound Train, Bandulus, and Power Up. So it's going to be Power Up. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, hit that if you can, if it's not sold out. And then we're also playing. We're playing in Connecticut. Actually, the night before your show, we'll be playing up in at Cherry Street Station.
Did you send me that one?
I don't know if I sent you that flyer per se.
Okay, it's okay. Oh wait, I got. What's this one? Oh, here it was buried. Okay, now this is the day that you were talking about at that fest, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's our night that we're playing the Sunday, just to send everybody to work hungover the next day.
Kenny Rain is asking, where is it? It's right outside Philly, right?
Yeah, Ben Salem, Pennsylvania. It's like right outside Philadelphia. It's just northeast of Philly. Some people kind of consider it Philly, but it's right there, right on the highway, right between the highway and the river, pretty much. But yeah, I know he's playing that Saturday the 15th in Wallingford, Connecticut, at Cherry Street Station. It's the Pomps, Rusty Things, and Kamoy the band is playing.
Right on.
Anyone from Connecticut want to get down tonight? That'll be our warm up for the New York City show.
You're playing there the night before our show.
Yes.
All right. Don't get lost on the way back, bro. We need you. Cherry Street State, Wallingford. The scary streets of Wallingford. George Fox asks, when's the next Steel Toe Solution record coming out?
Well, of course, George asked that. He was the fellow in that picture wearing the Skinhead Glory shirt. He's our longtime guitarist, and he's been asking that question for like 10 years now, I'd say. And the answer is the same. Any day now.
Right. We're working on it.
I don't know. Don't you like keeping the catalog to like 12 songs, nice and easy? You just, you guys can't even remember. You guys can't remember the album that we have. So every time we go to practice, you got to relearn the one album we have. So
It's all you need is 12 songs, bro. I mean, that's your set. And you do a cover or two and you're good.
exactly.
You know?
We've been doing for however since 1997.
Good call. Ray Hogan says, watch for the deer on the Merritt Parkway.
I
Absolutely.
hate the Merritt Parkway, man.
Bro.
But you got to avoid 95.
Tell me about it, man.
Connecticut just sucks something. I like
You know what's the worst?
I
The
hate driving
Merritt.
through it, man.
You know what's the worst, man? And I've been there many, many times. Driving back from Boston in the middle of the night on the Merritt Parkway. And like, you're just flying on the Merritt Parkway. And you just go, please, God, don't let a deer jump out in front of me. Because it's going to be a fucking disaster. You know?
So my dad lived in Cape Cod in Provincetown, Massachusetts. And my stepmom's still up there. And my baby sister's out there sometimes. My brother lives up in Boston. So I'm up there all the time. And, you know, you just have this fantasy that, yeah, it'll just take us right up 95. It's never going to happen because 95 is always screwed.
Yeah.
Not that the Merritt's much better, but that's where it takes you. And sure enough, you always got to wind up driving at night on those crappy, narrow little I hate the Merritt. Connecticut pisses me off enough with the whole pizza thing. And, you know, then they have the Merritt Parkway, and it just really.
Yeah, and it's not easy. And it's not like you could put it on cruise control and just hang. Because it's it's like curves and this and that. And
driving at damn speed. And yeah, no.
It's not easy driving, man.
Come on, Connecticut. Knock it off.
Yeah, that's it. Let's see. What? This is an interesting one. Hey, whoa. There's a Connecticut guy. You hurt his feelings, bro.
Once I bring up the pizza, so we have a friend band there, Sergeant Scagnetti. And we always do the whole pizza war thing. We're always faking
I think this is an interesting one. GXX and the World. What would be the legacy of Inspector 7? I think I7 is an important band in the ska world.
I mean, not to toot my own horn for the 20 years I was in the band, but I do too. I mean, I always liked that we stood out at a time where ska was getting very popular, and in a lot of times straying away from its skinhead roots and being skinhead centric. I7, we just full on embraced it, and yet at the same time, you know, we had music that everyone could enjoy, and but we really set that theme off as far as, you know, things locally when things were getting kind of more poppy and mainstream. We were just like skinhead all the way, and we had a kind of a defined sound and an edge that a lot of ska bands didn't have. You know, it's a lot of happy poppy stuff, and we just maintained it. Then with Hub City Stompers, the evolution of Hub City Stompers, we just dove in on that even harder, and so like I said, this is kind of why I wish, you know, I could talk to G, and, you know, maybe some of the older members could as well, and kind of like, you know, get things going again and continue the legacy like it was, you know. I mean, not to say, you know, they're holding their own now, they're doing fine. When it comes to picking front people, you know, the co-front people, I guess taking my place, it's always been a good job. Sally was in the band for a while, as the co-front person. Daniela is a very energetic and has a great presence and everything. So I mean, you know, there's fun to watch and still fun to see. But I mean, I just feel like that. I guess that's our lament. Myself and some of the older members is just like, I feel like he sees it as just him and whoever surrounds him, and that's not the way we see it. So I don't know. We don't want the legacy to kind of end that way. So that's why I always have my hand out, because, you know, I mean, I'm happy with what Inspector 7 did and has done, and, you know, the stamp it put at the time. But yeah, I think you know, maybe there's more, you know, we'll see what the future holds, but I appreciate the legacy that we did put, but yeah, like us, and like Frank said, Meth, you know, whenever we would play Wetlands together or play in Jersey or wherever, it was just all the skins would come out, and it wasn't just a bunch of checkers and plaid, you know.
Yeah, like Frankie says, Inspector Seven and Mephistopheles held on to the roots of New York City Jersey skins when the other quote unquote New York bands turned their backs. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Right.
it's interesting because I've been very much exposed to of late to Mephistopheles because I was hired by Mephistopheles' bass player to do a documentary on his music teacher, the very famous Linda McKnight, and that's a documentary that I've been working on, and I've gone and seen them play a couple times, and I mean I knew them peripherally, but they're another great band. They're a fantastic band that does a great stage show and great musicians in that band too. You know,
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so a former Inspector 7 and HCS member now plays guitar for them. That's Adam X, who I referred to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I occasionally try to steal him back for fill-in duties in HCS, but yeah,
Right.
he was in Inspector 7 and he came over to me to form HCS as well. He's one of the founding members of HCS, and but yeah, he's in Meth now, and just all of this. They've always had amazing musicians, but the lineup now is just it's ridiculous. It's and then their sound, talk about all over the place and unpredictable, and you don't know what you're going to hear, but it's always awesome. I mean, I just saw them on Sunday at the show in Garwood with Judge and the Take and Damage Done.
Yep.
It was off the chain, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have been there, but we were playing A7 that night, you know. So it just so happened they ended up on the same day, which happens sometimes.
Yeah, Methodology family and just one of again back in the Inspector 7 days is when we formed the bond, and it just continued on to HCS, and they're our fam and one of our favorite bands to play with. There's just there's a lot of bands we like to play with. There's just certain ones up there, like, and that's one of them that's just special.
Sure.
Yeah, No Redeeming Social Value, Murphy's Law, like there's just crazy party bands. Like
always a party, no redeeming social value. Yeah, I like Dean and those guys. They're great. So great. So that said, it was great having you on, and I'm glad we got a chance to chop it up. Very excited that you're playing one of our free all ages Sunday matinees. This one is at Berlin. Frankie, too far. You better get your ass down there. Sunday, March 16th. It's Hub City Stompers, Rebelmatic, Ancient Domains, featuring basically it's Super Touch with Matt from Bold singing. DIYing Breed, featuring Vic Venom from Reagan Youth and Nausea, and Ned Hammerbrain, Ill Raised, and DJ Cindy Halfrats, formerly of the Lunatics. It's going to be a really, really great day. I'm looking forward. Is there anybody you want to thank, Rev? Anybody you want to shout out?
I didn't realize that was the lineup, but it's the Super Touch guys with Matt from Bold.
What's that?
Super Touch guys with Matt from Bold. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what that is.
Why did I not know that? I'd seen some of the Super Touch guys put out the Ancient Domain. All right, now it makes sense.
Yeah, well, so Ancient Domains is like literally Super Touch with Matt from Bold singing, and they do a couple of Super Touch songs, and DIY Breed is great too, and this is a really powerful bill. This is going to be awesome.
When I proposed to my wife, I did it via a cover of Super Touch's "What If," and made a whole video of it and showed her on played the video for her. Cool. on the computer, and then proposed. So yeah, I'm Super Touch has a special place in my heart. So,
oh, yeah. Good.
That's great.
Anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
Well, thank you for having me on here. This is great. And like I said, people ask about why we sound how we sound and why I am how I am as a ska frontman. And it's like I'm a New Jersey hardcore dude who formed a ska band, and that's so like I said, hardcore was my first love, so I appreciate being on here, and I appreciate you tying in the underground with everything that's influenced under the underground. So thank you. Thank everyone who's still down with HCS, whether you're just pretending to be and then talk shit on us when we're not around. Either way, it's fine. You show up. Thanks to everyone who books us still. Some people won't. Thanks for the labels that work with us, the fests that have us on, and yeah, just thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone who's down cutting it up with us. Oh God, Travis killed it at the judge pit. Yeah, I'm still feeling that. Yeah, thanks, Jorge.
Yeah. So that's all right. Well, let's keep in touch, and we're going to see you a week from Sunday. If you need anything, if there's any kind of requests equipment wise or any questions, just reach out. And thank you for your time, Rev, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, see y'all the 16th. It's gonna be nuts.
There you go. Take care.
Catch you.
Boom. Another one in the books. Reverend Sinister from the Hub City Stompers. It was great. Got to talk a little ska, Good stuff. Good stuff right there. Yeah, I saw Mephistopheles does a kick-ass cover of the Bumblebee Tuna song. Bum, bum, bumblebee, bumblebee tuna. I love bumblebee, bumblebee tuna. Yep. Good stuff. Frankie, too far, man. You better take off from work, man. Don't hurt our feelings, bro. You got to come down to the show, B. Come on now. That said, we will be right back here in a couple of days with Cara Legal. And then a couple days after that, Dina Douglas. And then a couple days after that is the Hub City Stompers. So lots going on. Our dance. I got to shout out photographer Rich Zoller, who always likes to wait until the show starts to start sending me photos and stuff like that. Did you get them? But thanks for the shot of this was ID at A7 the other day. Different kind of shot here. So playing the old magic room at the A7, which was quite the experience. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. That said, thanks a lot, everybody. Great show. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Life is short. Life is too short for us not to do that. And until next time, do good things and good things will come.